I'm 18 now, and this happened to me when I was 11 years old, back in 6th grade. It was a holiday, so I didn't have school the next day. Me and my friends had this group chat, so we don't have to text each person if you want to hang out. My friends, John, David, and Tucker, agreed to have a sleepover at John's house. John's parents are loaded. They have a 3-story house with a pool, a basement with a huge TV, an arcade machine, and a bar. John asked if I wanted to come over, and I obviously agreed. I got there around 5 p.m., and we all went to this fort John built in the woods. All 4 of us were messing around in this fort when we heard footsteps on the leaves below us. At first, it was just me and Tucker that heard it, but we told John and David to listen. They instantly heard it too. John told his dad about it over the phone, and he came out there. He cleared the woods and walked us back to the house. It wasn't until a few hours later that we were playing Fortnite or something similar like that on John's console when we got the idea to explore the woods, because apparently somebody told John that there was a huge sketchy cabin in the woods. Stupidly, we all 4 agreed to go out with flashlights. About 10 minutes later, we got to the cabin. It wasn't as big as I thought, and immediately I noticed a horrible smell coming from the inside, like something died in there. We found a broken window and entered through there. We split into twos and explored the cabin. It was me and Tucker exploring one side of the cabin, while John and David explored the other. We found this small room that had an attic door on the ceiling. We didn't find anything weird in the room, just a bed and some furniture. When me and Tucker were in the attic, we heard John suddenly scream from the other room. Me and Tucker ran out from the attic and followed John and David, who were also running back to his house. I didn't get an answer out of John until we got back in his basement. That's when he said he saw a man, probably mid-40s, tall and skinny, lunge at them. We were all shaken on what he said. John also told us that he was sure he saw another person laying down in a pool of blood in there. We all tried to get over it, but David wanted to call the police to check out that cabin. We told John's dad about it, and he had a concerned look on his face. He also got mad at us for going in the woods, but he eventually called the police. 20 minutes later, 10 state troopers and a search team came, and they went into the cabin. What they told us they found made my blood run cold. Apparently, there was a serial killer in that cabin, and when they found him, they found a dead corpse right beside him. They put him into cuffs, and when they went into the closet of the room we were in, they found 3 other bodies, all in a pool of blood. The victims were identified, but I never got their names. The scariest part is, me and Tucker were only a couple feet away from those bodies. All 4 of the poor victims got stabbed by a foot-long knife they later recovered. This happened 7 years ago today. 7 years ago was the scariest day of my life. This happened years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. My stepfather works out of town, and he used to stay the whole week away from the family. We had a tradition of all taking turns having sleepovers when he was gone. This time, it was my turn to have a sleepover in my mom's bedroom, which has always freaked everybody out. Seriously, if there's ever been a ghost in our house, it's definitely back there. I'm not gonna get into all the stuff surrounding that room, because that's not the point of this post, but just know, the bedroom is weird. Always hearing stuff moving around in there, pounding and scratching at the door, bathroom and closet lights flickering, you know, weird stuff. But anyways, at the time, everyone was pretty scared and never wanted to be in there by themselves. During the sleepover, my mom said she was gonna go outside to smoke a cigarette, and she asked me if I wanted to keep the lights on until she got back. Of course, being scared, I told her to keep the lights on. She goes outside, and I'm just kinda chilling in the room for a few minutes, trying not to be freaked out. And then, the lights turn out, and I feel somebody get into the bed next to me. I thought it was my mom, so I didn't even turn around. I just said something stupid like, "Welcome back." My mom started to rub my back, and her hands felt cold. But of course, she was just outside smoking a cigarette, so of course she would be cold. Anyways, she kept rubbing my back, and then she randomly started scratching it. At first, I was really uncomfortable, and then it started to really hurt. Like actually hurt. It wasn't a normal back rub anymore, or back itching. She was just straight up hurting me. I told her to stop at first, but she didn't. After I asked her again, it went back to a normal nice back rub. Some time went by, and my mom came in the room. She looked at me and said, "I thought you wanted the lights on." I responded, "Yeah, but you came in a few minutes ago. Remember? You turned it off." She paused for a minute and then said, "No, I just came back inside right now. What are you talking about?" Of course, I was feeling a bit confused and freaked out, so I decided to finally roll over to look at her, and she was just now getting into bed. I asked her again if she was sure, and she was just now coming in, and she said, "Yeah, I just finished smoking," which I thought was weird because then who was hurting my back? I thought maybe I imagined the whole thing and asked my mom if she can shine her phone flashlight on my back because it felt itchy. When she looked at it, she said it was all red with scratch marks, and she joked about me being flexible. To this day, I still don't know what happened, and it brings me chills every time I think about it. At the time of the sleepover, it was me and my best friend, both age 7. We're both now 16 and 17 and haven't talked about this incident since. We live in Florida, about 15 minutes away from Tampa. It was one of our many sleepovers we had, and it was no different from others. We played with Barbies, watched movies, read books, until we couldn't take it anymore and went to bed around 9 or 10. I turned off the lights and climbed up to my top bunk where both me and my friend were going to sleep. As I laid down, something immediately didn't feel right. The house I lived in was relatively old, and our landlord sucked and never came to fix anything. He only cared when the rent was due. Before getting in bed, I flipped on my fan and had my mom turn the AC down. But as I got into bed, my fan was turned off, so was the AC. I thought the power went out and didn't think much of it. About 20 minutes go by and I can't sleep, and I feel like I'm dying of heat stroke. I'm not sure if my friend is awake, so I say her name quietly. She responds immediately, saying, "I can't sleep, but it's not because it's hot." I look over and can barely see her, but her silhouette. I look up at the ceiling and sigh and say, "What is it then?" She responds saying, "It's the man in the corner." I got chills. I look over at her slowly and then turn my head to look at the corner. I thought she was lying at first because I didn't see anything. I let out a breath of air I didn't know I was holding in. I go to adjust my blanket, and that's when I see him. A man, dark and tall, seeming to stare at the both of us. I immediately grip my friend's hand and close my eyes hard. "We have to get to my mom," I whispered. I felt my friend nod. We both laid there, unable to move. All of a sudden, I feel the movement of somebody climbing up the ladder and crawling slowly. The blankets moved with the movement, and I slowly opened my eyes to watch the man slowly crawl towards us. I was gasping for air and looking over to see my friend watching too, both of us paralyzed from moving. I looked back at the man and could only see his outline, no features. I hold my friend's hand tight and say, "Scream when I tap your finger." I barely got out in a whisper. She slowly nodded, and as I watched the man slowly reach for my face, I tapped her hand and we both screamed bloody murder. My mom came running in, no later than 20 seconds, and turned the light on. Both me and my friend were holding each other crying, hysterically. There was no trace of the man, and my mom checked all doors, saying they were locked and weren't even touched. We both slept on the couch that night, watching Barbie movies and holding each other tightly. To this day, I don't know what it was or who it was, but I will always remember the eerie feeling of death being that close to my face.